Today I'm going to talk about something that I think we all need to master and we all need to have perspective on because it's going to help you with your life in general, which is essentially managing your time and managing your entire perspective on how to manage every second of your life from start to finish every single day. Just allow you to understand the decisions you're making in terms of today I'm going to push really hard, today I'm not going to push that hard. You know, I have friends of mine who've known me for a really long time, 20 years plus, and I don't try to live a really interesting life with a weird schedule and stuff. I just always end up that way, in terms of how I end up working really hard, working really late. I don't know. People ask me, what am I doing with my, how have I been and that sort of thing. And then I just start rattling off the stuff I do. And I start realizing that I'm looking at someone who wakes up, does a 9-to-5 job, comes home, plays with the family, watches 2 or 3 different programs, gets to bed by 10, maybe 11 at the latest, and repeats every single day exactly the same. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I look at, they're looking at me, and sometimes there's this sort of, this exchange of like, I envy that time in you. And then, I'm obviously envying their circle, they're envying mine. And then it kind of goes back and forth. And then I'll go like, well, no, I do like the way I live my life. And then they'll say, nah, I do like the way I live my life. But it goes back and forth. But one of my buddies the other day, he said, he was asking me about my life, and I said, well, I'm, really busy with a bunch of different projects. And he kind of said, good, and his insinuation, he said, actually, he goes, the world needs 100% of you, not 60% of you. Meaning if I got busy with something else, that the world wouldn't have my full dedication, right? And no one's ever said that to me before, so I thought that was really interesting. It made me step back in retrospect. But I got another friend of mine going to a course, a year-long course that helps her manage her time. It's been very eye-opening to hear sort of a different perspective from another type of school. But it has to do with when you wake up, how you view the tasks that need to be completed in that particular day, and then how you arrange your life in a way that those tasks are executed as efficiently as possible. And I want to say efficient, not fast. Efficient will end up being the fastest way, but if you think that you need to rapid fire something in a very quick way, a lot of times you'll add stress and anxiety to yourself that is unnecessary. For instance, when someone wants to lose weight, it's not important, okay, that you make this. I mean, it is important you set a goal for yourself. How much weight would you like to lose, and generally how quick you'd like to lose it. However, in the end, you simply go into a process where every day you lose more weight than you gain, or even maybe say in 5 days, I'm going to have Tuesday, I'm going to eat too much and gain a little bit of weight, but the other 4 days I'm going to actually lose weight. So it's not a dream, and it has a goal, right? Because it has a deadline. Got these crows above my house are fighting it out. But I want to give you several analogies during this particular episode because I really want to be on the same page with you guys and maybe take some of my methodologies and give it to you. Because it served me extremely well. If I had the wherewithal, if I had the ability, let's put it that way, to bring, one at a time, one of you into my life, and you could shadow me and see how I live my life, then everything that I do would make sense fairly quickly, right? So this is going to be sort of a virtual way of doing that. The analogy that came to me in the last 7 days has to do with time used productively for some of your goals and sort of the time that you need to simply relax and be you and just kind of entertain yourself a little bit, because they're both extremely important. I think what you'll find is that it's actually fairly easy to entertain yourself in a very short period of time. So I got to chase these crows away here. Here's the analogy for you. Here's the one thing I want you to think about. Think about a brick wall or a stone wall. any wall that has mortar between its stones. The stone itself is something very productive and substantive. And the mortar between them is the sort of the necessary medium to hold them together. And that's sort of your life. You have things that have to happen, and you have this medium in between them that makes it possible to hold it all together. And so it's the balance of, if you were to then take the wall and make the wall time, and the first 1 foot from, say, west to east, left to right, as we're going to go to the right and build this wall, at some points in time, you may have no mortar, very thin mortar. Maybe it looks like it's stones out of the, Egypt, where there's just 2 stones next to each other and they just butt up beautifully. And then you might go all the way down, and then at some point in your life, you have a lot of mortar. Maybe barely any stones. Because at that particular time in your life, you burned yourself out and you needed more help. So time will definitely, vary this formula. But when everything's going right, when you feel good, man, when you're like, look, you've had plenty of entertainment, you've done your vacation, you've done whatever it is that makes you happy. And this could be hour to hour, minute to minute, or you could be talking about stretches of weeks and months. But there comes a point in time where the stones are packed really tightly, and it's awesome. And I'm personally, right now in my life, I'm really packing them tightly, and I really enjoy it. The things that I have used to entertain myself have sort of become boring and pointless. I go back and I'll do something that I used to think was entertaining, and I'll just say, oh, why would, this doesn't do anything for me anymore. I understand why I did something in the past, but it doesn't do anything for me anymore, But now the cool thing is, it all goes back to that analogy I made 1 billion episodes ago, which is something I repeat every once in a while, which is every single one of us who has a goal in life, we are never told how many steps it takes to get the goal. Ever. Well, now, isn't life a lot different when you know how many steps you have to take? If I said walk across this patio right now, and how many steps based on your stride do you think you need to take to get across this patio? It's going to be between about 12 and 15. And there's some sort of comfort in that. It's like, well, yeah, getting to the other side of this patio is not a problem. I said, okay, I'm going to put you in a boat down here at the dock. You can pick whatever boat type you want, but you're going to have to get to Hawaii now by yourself. How long do you think that's going to take? And you have no idea, right? Unless you're a sailor. So there's a big difference between the two. And the thing is that life doesn't reveal the number of steps necessary to complete a goal. And so we have to continually take steps every single day we possibly can. And then, hey, at some random point in the future, you're on the other side of the patio. You have reached your goal, That's what this episode's about, is the management of time to get that goal, whatever it is. And it could be that you don't have any finite goals. You don't have this destination goal. You've got simply a goal to live a particular lifestyle on a day-to-day basis. This is what I do. I help people every single day. When you help people every single day, then, if you wake up and you help a person, then you've actually succeeded, right? But now, the thing I get a lot, and I've mentioned it just a couple times in the 80 episodes, is that when people ask me how I've spent my day or whatever, I tell them the stuff that I do and how much stuff I do. I get this question a lot of like, where do you find the time? I get this question a lot less nowadays, which actually makes me feel good. But the idea is people don't see time very well in their minds. They've got pastimes that are eating up their souls, and they don't realize it. TV being one of the biggest sucking sounds on planet Earth. And if you have kids, a lot of times parents feel obligated to bring television into the family. Like, well, I've got a kid, well, I got to do television. No, you don't, man. Now, when I was a kid, I watched quite a bit of television. But today I think it's even worse than it's ever been. I think the substance of what you see on television is horrible. There used to be a lot of moral, uplifting endings to things on television when I was a kid, and I just don't see it today. It's all just sort of frivolous entertainment. And again, the complexity of a thought determines the complexity of a brain. And if television is not doing anything to increase the complexity of thought in your children, then it's almost like giving your child a bag of weed and just saying, here, smoke this. Weed makes you dumb. It just does. There are various strands of marijuana that I think can keep complexity. The sativa lines can actually keep the mind more complex, very creative. But I think overall, the people I meet who smoke habitually simply don't have that strand available. But there is time around you constantly. And what's interesting is I've grown up very sentient of time. And I don't know why. I don't know who told me or whatever, but I see time. And I don't mean any like LSD way, although I wish I did. But when I get up, I see the clock ticking in my head. Like I said, there was a song when I was a kid, 1980, by a band named Sparks called Beat the Clock. And when I read the lyrics, the song was actually pretty damn cool back in this, it's like 79 or something like that, but the music is totally trippy and cool. Back in 79, man, it was like a mind blower. It's like this synth band, these two guys. But the lyrics were my life when I was a kid. I was like, this is how I feel about my life, which is to live life, double fast and to get as much out of life as I possibly can. I just realized that life is an oasis of possibility, right? So I want to pass this to you if I possibly can. But I don't want to give you anxiety either. And I've hinted about this a little bit, so I'm just going to go through it. Which is, I'm going to give you an extreme example of the maximum that I do on a particular day. And it's funny, I'll give you like a crazy story that sort of describes what I'm about to do to you. There's a movie called Full Metal Jacket by Stanley Kubrick. The drill sergeant in that movie, his name is Gunny Sargent. Something or other, but they just call him Gunny. And he's in the first half of this film. And he does all this crazy stuff to these guys. And they asked him, I think on the Johnny Carson show, I think it was Johnny Carson asked him, well, how much of that stuff you did to those guys was real? And how much of that was Stanley Kubrick, writing that into the script? And I believe his answer on live television was, I've done it all once, but not all to one platoon, or one to all, not in platoon, training group, right? So what I'm going to tell you is stuff I do all the time, but not necessarily all in one day, right? So I don't want you to take this as some literal translation of this is how I live my life, right? And, if you have partners and you have lots of kids or kids in general, you're going to have to craft this for yourself. And I want you to see this as the greatest video game, that it's you designing your life and making it really fun for yourself. Because you shouldn't be copying me in technique unless it works perfectly, or unless it's just a coincidence that we have the exact same capability to do the exact same thing. First things first is I try to design my requirements in life to be as simple as possible. What's that mean? Well, what do I have to do in life as a mechanical allocation of time? I got to get up in the morning. I got to get clean. I got to get dressed. I have to feed myself. I have to clean up my space. I got a metric ton of snail mail stuffed in my mailbox. I got bills I got to pay. Some basic things that are imposed on me as a human being. Take out my trash. So what I do is I keep my wardrobe very straightforward. I've had people call it my uniform. I got varying level of jeans that fits over my biker boots. I got varying levels of tops based on, I got t-shirts, most of the time until I got to, look good. Then I got my button downs. But it's just but it's just something that's very quick to execute. My bathroom, I have utterly lined up, and everyone does this, right? And so if you've done this, we're on the same track. Everything's in the same place generally. I have a ritual, from when I brush my teeth to when I shave to when I get into that shower. It's just literally 1, 2, 3, boom, rinse off, get out, dry down, right? You want these rituals to be sort of entirely removed from the equation because they are so autonomic. You can pre-plan certain things that are fluctuate. Like for a dude doesn't always shave every single day necessarily, right? Some of you guys need to shave by 5 o'clock, so you're gonna have a different ritual. Some of you are women, so you have different leg shaving things and other parts. The more that you can just make this all disappear from your life, the better, right? Now, most of us struggle in the modern age of whether or not we eat in or eat out. Whether or not we drink coffee, don't drink coffee. Whether we eat healthy or don't eat healthy. The toughest one is that we get tired of food categories. So you might be like, okay, this particular month I'm going to OD on cereal in the morning, and this particular one I'm going to cook myself eggs in the morning and oatmeal. And so you go through these phases, and just as long as you pre-plan your phases or have the ingredients available to phase your eating, you won't run off and grab the box of donuts on the day that you're tired of cereal, putting on pounds, right? So as we look at our day, again, we're going to look at the stuff that we have to do to stay alive, which is eat and shower and clean and all that kind of stuff, which is the mortar between the bricks, including your entertainment. Now, it's possible, what I do in my life is there'll be 2 or 3 days where I really don't have a massive entertainment strand. Sometimes I'll go and smoke a cigar at my cigar shop. I'm in, like I told you guys, I'll smoke a lot for months and then I won't smoke for years. I'm at a phase now where I've cut down my smoking by 2/3 because I'm just out of it. I've been sort of get tired of it. And it definitely makes editing these a little bit easier, although this chemtrail cold I have is slowing down all recording. So the reason why I'm unable to make a bunch of videos right now is my throat is all powdery from this bullshit they're spraying in the sky, which they now have admitted in several different venues publicly. United Nations testimony, senatorial testimony, and articles in the LA Times about seeding the clouds, right? So they're trying to launder this geoengineering extermination of mankind through, hey, we're going to make rainstorms. Sure rains a lot. No, it doesn't rain. Then your day starts with the block of time that is something towards your goal in life. And of course, I am insinuating that there's something beyond just your work. If you go and work for someone else in your life and you don't have an intimate, vested interest in what you're doing, so, let's say you're just working for any corporation, you work a 9-to-5 job and you come home and all of your goal is to just simply be with your family, then this video is not for you. This video is for someone that wants to create something new to their life. Either you're self-employed, like myself, or you are creating that self-employment thing after your 8-hour day job. Now, if you have a family, at some point the family goes to bed. The younger kids always end up being in bed, depending on if, infants from like 0 to say 7 or so, they're usually in bed around 6 or 7 o'clock. And if they're not, you should try to make that happen. After 7, you start giving them an extra hour and a half, 8:30, that sort of thing. And then if they're older, if they're in their teens, then they're sort of on autopilot after a certain time. But as I've said in the parenting episode, a bunch of other episodes, as long as you have allocated time for the family a couple times a week, and it's up to you, if whether or not you need 4 days a week and only 3 come back to you, that's fine. You got to tell your family. You have to tell them what you're trying to do. Tell them your goals so that everyone's on board and they're sort of excited for mom or for dad to get their goals, right? So that's the first thing. If you have a spouse, you're going to have to tell them what's up. And hopefully your spouse is What I have experienced, and I haven't been married, but when I have a very dedicated partner, the partner is more up my ass than I am about me and the goal, because they can see it, because I'm really good at pitching the goal to whomever I'm with, right? Don't expect your kids to be the slightest bit interested in what you're doing or even understand what you're doing, because they simply don't understand paying bills yet. If you're older and your kids are professional adults, then they'll probably have a chance of getting it. But now, I'm going to take you back to my teenage years where I built up some habits. I remember being just even in my early teens and thinking about time and thinking about, how much can I actually squeeze out of a day? And I'm going to tell you sort of a funny story, which is, this is sort of a weird thing that no one ever talks about. But either your family, when you use the restroom, number 2, either your family is the women usually come in and out real fast. So either your dudes in your house will spend a lot of time in that session, or they won't spend any time at all in that session. And for whatever reason, my family spent a lot of time in that session for the men. So there's a lot of time lost to this ritual. And I don't know why, but you just mock your relatives, right? So I remember making sure that when I was in this ritual, which was completely indoctrinated into my brain inadvertently, to use that time wisely. And the reason why I mentioned that odd little thing is that that's how far I took it. And then every other place in my day was far less informal than sitting on the pot. The amount of things I have done on the toilet is unbelievable. I've had keyboards that I bring into the bathroom with me. I play and write songs. I drew my yearbook cover on the toilet. Used to read all these incredible magazines like Omni Magazine cover to cover. Might take 2 or 3 sessions, right? And it may have been, honestly, might have been the food that we were eating that made that possible, but now it's not that way at all. But just allocating that time, in that whenever I have a second, I have something with me to consume the time. A lot of you travel on buses or trains or ride in taxi cabs, or you fly a lot. You have this, you're very acclimated to this, and you do this all the time. It's like, of course, you pull out your paperback book, whatever. And again, it could be the mortar between the bricks that you're pulling out, which is something that just feeds your soul. And you might be pulling out some of your goals. When I'm heavy into writing and I need to rewrite and reread my scripts, I always have a printed script available with me, and I always take it with me. And it's funny because Kyle, I used to when I was like 20 years ago or so, I would take a script and I'd really open it up in my space on an airplane. And then later I started taking the script and double blinding it so you couldn't tell what the hell it was. It just looked like sort of a notebook, and then you couldn't see what I was doing unless you really nosed your nose into what I was doing. And my buddy Kyle was saying that I guess there's this thing in Hollywood about people who try to exhibition script editing. I'm a writer. But now let's talk about being exhausted, because you could see that other analogy of using every single split second of time for your life ebbing into your evening, right? As soon as you're done eating, go off and do something. It could be just as simple as you're dating someone, you're married to someone, she or he has 15, 30 minutes of stuff to do before you're going to watch your favorite show on television. So they go, hey, I'm going to need 15, 30 minutes before I can watch TV. And then you just run to your station in the house, whatever it is. Put the laptop on your lap, whatever it is. Try not to distract yourself too bad. You get 15, 30 minutes in. You watch your show. If you need any personal time between you and your spouse, get that out of the way. Take your time. Don't rush it. And then when you're over, simply tell the person, well, I'd like to spend another hour at my station. And again, if what they see in their mind is a benefit to the whole family, then your support level should be pretty damn high. But what about exhaustion? What about the old idea and the old excuse that when I come home, I'm so exhausted, I can't really see myself engaging in all this other stuff? Some of you wake up in the morning and you take kids to school. You get them ready, you get them fed, you get them dressed. They don't want to get up because they're really young, and you take them to school, and you go to work. Then you're stressing all day because you're going to have to get off work at a particular time to pick them up from daycare. Then you got to get them home, fed, cleaned, in bed. And by that time, maybe all you have the energy to do in your brain is watch a television program and doze off to sleep. Maybe you don't even get the television program. You're just so exhausted, you just fall asleep. Okay. If that is your life, then you're probably going to have marginal success between Monday and Friday. However, Saturday and Sunday might be your day. And again, you're going to want to communicate to your kids that this is something that needs to occur. And even if they're tiny little kids, as long as they understand English, they'll understand sort of your goal. And what's cool about it is the earlier your kids hear about this sort of thing, the more that you show them the process of being an adult, of taking control of your life and doing what you want to do, Now, the other one I want to talk about is tools, or our tools, right? The tools that you need to do whatever you do and making sure that they're around you constantly. And I'm just going to throw some basics out there, but hopefully if yours isn't in this, then I need you to just make the list of things that you need to have around you. One, you will have heard me say many times if you listen to all 80 episodes, out of sight, out of mind. It is the single death blow of anyone trying something new. If you want to sketch or paint or play guitar, you have to have these devices and these mechanisms in front of you. If you want to be a writer, you're not only going to have your word processor in front of you, or your tablet with a keyboard attached to it, but you're going to need pad and paper too, right? My recommendation is if you're a writer, pad and paper is the way to start, and then you move it into a computer to really organize it beautifully. But I tell you, all the meetings I've ever had with some of the greatest inventions that we've come up with, we're writing on the placemat at a steakhouse, The amount of amazing designs that my one of my mentors, Sid Mead, has come up with on a napkin is crazy. I'm going to say probably 20% of every amazing thing that you've loved that he's done has been on a napkin first at a conversation at a bar or a restaurant or something. So you're going to need to keep your arsenal around you constantly. Now, the other one you might not consider is keeping multiple sets available. Now, if you need a computer to do what you do, you just simply make sure you have a nice lightweight laptop. It's got a good battery, or you got your power supply with you, and you can carry it around with you. Obviously, protect it with your life, because if it's stolen, then you're going to lose your ability to move your career forward. But let's say you're a writer. A couple pieces of advice. Obviously have sort of the pad and paper workstations at different locations. So maybe one on the kitchen counter, maybe one by the nightstand and by the bed, maybe one by the coffee table in front of the TV, one in your car in the console or in some side drawer, maybe one in the bathroom where you keep your Q-tips, right? Wherever you spend time, these mechanisms need to be around you so you've got them. And I know that might sound stupid, but if someone just doesn't remind you, you might not do it. And again, if these mechanisms are not in sight, then you won't think to use them. Or when you have an idea, you'll put it off. I've been having dreams like the last several months. I've been having the most vivid dreams probably of my entire life. It feels like I sleep and I go off to another world, and then when I wake up, I'm sort of exhausted because I'm having such a good time in this other place. But I've been having these moments in the twilight zone just before going to bed where I've been having these incredible ideas, these epiphanies about how to make things better, and some of my inventions and techniques that I'm using, and I'll think that I can remember it in the morning because it's so profound and so utterly of course, and I don't write it down. By the next day, I've lost it. And I guarantee you, someone else is going to be given that idea in the universe because I didn't show an interest in writing it down. Just the way it works. So I've had to make some provisions in my own sleeping habits to have this the ability to wake up and you're tired as hell, you're just trying to fall asleep. And I don't sleep quickly because my brain never shuts off. So when I really feel tired, when I get a great idea, it's sort of, well, do you have a good night's sleep? Or do you wake up and write this down and then potentially have 30 minutes to an hour to get to bed? You're 5 seconds from going to bed, or 50 minutes from going to bed. It's your choice. Usually I pick the problem. Now, if this was 20 years ago, it'd be a little easier for me to not say some things and know that they're not a problem in your life. But now we have a problem that we have to negotiate around, which is the miles and miles of short attention span applications and processes and sort of daily life things we have to keep out of our lives. We use Facebook to create what we believe to be one of the most focused feeds of political awareness on the normal facebook.com/MKUltraRadio. The Deep Thoughts Radio channel is still sort of slowly percolating, But today, regardless of what age you are, the internet is beckoning you to spend your spare time on the internet, to not have a moment of despair, not a moment of loneliness, and to be on Facebook 24/7. That has been the sort of the evolution of the last 15 years, right? As well, phones went from flip phones, which were still predominantly a frickin' phone, right? You push the red button to hang up, the green button to make a phone call. Now they're smartphones. Now, making a phone call on your phone is the least common thing you do with the phone. If you're a boy, you may have video games on your devices, even little parlor games. If you're a lady, you will maybe have Candy Crush or something on there. And I don't want to say not to have some of these things on there, especially if it just mellows you out. After I have a really long day, if I've been buzzing and I'm laying bricks and there's very little mortar and I'm really getting a lot of stuff done in the day, if I've edited together one of these shows and I'm just spent and I want to go to bed, but my mind is sort of, just needs to calm the frequency down of thought, I will play, it was Ultimate Jewel. That's what the game I dig on my Android. It's just really mellow, really relaxing. And I bring my frequency down, then poof, I'm off to sleep. You have your own thing, right? What do they call it? They call it your, you have your own crosses to bear, and you bear them in different ways, But here's my advice, and believe me, I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm not sure anything that I'm saying here is technically easy, but what we want to have happen is that these things don't become a complete time suck on your life. Hopefully, either what you're doing is really for you, or at best, maybe to spread awareness. Again, the Facebook has sort of turned into this abomination of cause. We created a little graphic for our website or for our Facebook page, which were the reasons why someone posts on Facebook. And it sort of goes, I posted up there, no one really notices what it is, but it's actually very important. You'll have your people that go up there and post simply to mourn the death of someone, or really, I think most of them just want to be the first person to spread bad news. They just dig it. The other one is someone posting, not every once in a while, but just feverishly, them with a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend constantly, right? Which means it's the mental goal of that kind of post is someone loves me, right? They'll make fun of Sally Fields, but what they're doing is being Sally Fields in that moment to say, see, someone loves me. The other one is to say, I'm right and you're wrong. In most of the cases, people who have that regiment do very little research, but know everything, right? The other one is, see how much better my life is than yours. And in moderation, everything works. But some people try to pound it in other people's faces. And the more you find yourself accidentally stepping over those bounds, is to the degree you're probably wasting your life in those venues, trying to impress people that either resent you for your successes or don't care at all. I had a weird experience last year where I dated someone who was very into Facebook, like way into Facebook. And I didn't care. On one level, this person was into Facebook. But she would always post photographs of us together. And it was one of those situations where, as a couple, we looked amazing together. I mean, she would tag me in all these photographs. And then I had a couple interesting reactions. I had girls that I didn't know liked me and girls that did like me who were my friends. So again, I didn't know some of them liked me and other ones I definitely knew that they liked me and there's nothing I could do about it because we're not compatible. But these photos start going up and I start getting these sort of cranky little chats from these girls. And I'm not a guy that harvests a bunch of women, so I can have them around me and, keep my black book all ready to go. Not at all. But I got these shockingly weird messages of just from the girls of saying, wow, this girl's really trying to stamp the world and say you are hers. Like she's insecure. And I can assure you that wasn't her cause at all. She had no bones like that in her body whatsoever. But that's the way these insecure women took it, which was sort of sad. And then I had the majority of my good, integral adult friends say, well, her and I didn't work out. Let's put it that way. And it was cool. But they said, well, where's this girl right now? Like, I really love seeing the photographs of you guys all the time. Made me feel good that you were having a good time, Because the girl I dated before wasn't on Facebook at all. And so there's no photographs of us together. I didn't exhibition that on Facebook because I didn't feel like I needed to, right? The more fortunate I feel to be with someone, I don't feel like I don't want to put it on Facebook because I know there's lonely people out there. I don't want to throw anyone's face, But the other one is that at times, and I'm just saying this to you to help dismiss and maybe dismiss Facebook's value to you a little bit and to make you understand vicariously maybe how the people feel about what you're doing. And you don't have to make your life suck like other people's lives, right? But it depends on how many friends you have on Facebook as to how much you sort of gloat on Facebook. And this is just my personal opinion. You can accept that idea if you want. But, again, I've been able to travel in fairly privileged circles. And so when I go to an event that's very coveted and amazing and I get to be with people that are really neat and see things, probably 3 out of 4 times if I take photographs, they're mine. They're on my computer. They're something I might share through text with people who are interested. Hey, did you go to that event? Yeah, check this out. Boom, boom, boom. It's really between my friends and I, like it would be in the normal world if there wasn't the faux friendships that we have on Facebook. Where something's fairly casual, or people don't understand what I'm doing, I'll post a whole gallery onto Facebook. And I haven't done any Facebooking in a long time. I sort of pulled out of it completely after last year. The relationship I had last year got to a point where, and this is just a caution to anyone who's super duper into it. I think I mentioned this once before, but just since we're on it, I want to make sure that if I can give you some rationale to pull out of something like Facebook, which is much more addictive than Candy Crush, all right? I will have done something for one of you, right? But I'm at dinner with this girl from last year, having a good time, and we finished dinner, and I'm like, hey, it's about sunset. Let's go see the sunset. And so we go down. It's Huntington Beach. I mean, it's like Hawaii. It looks phenomenal here. And so we parked the car right on the highway, found a great spot, got out, and I'm walking towards the beach, and I told her, I said, look, in the 13 years that I've lived here, I've dated most of that. I've been with someone most of that time. For whatever reason, I haven't done a true sunset experience with someone here on this particular beach. I've done it in Havasu and Hawaii and a bunch of other stuff, but never here. I don't know why. And so I was telling this girl, look, this is a special moment for me. Let's make this happen. I don't know why, but she didn't get it. We get to the water, sun setting, and then it was get the camera out and take a picture of the sun setting. And by the time we had a moment together, the sun was gone. Because it was take pictures of the sunset, edit them on the telephone, right then and there. Had to edit right there, and then push it up to Facebook to basically say, look how good my life is. and look at how eventually, I'm with this guy, and look, I'm loved. I'm so successful in this area. That was one of the last times I ever saw her, because I was done. I was done with that priority in life. And then I absolutely pulled out of Facebook, because I was, I have to keep my profiles alive for some other linkages with tools and services that I use that unfortunately close that ecosystem. But I have to modify or moderate the pages for the show. But I was done. And so when I came home and I really wanted to charge up my life, I wrote a script last year. It took me, a good 6 months of writing that thing in between everything else that's going on. I couldn't have video games that I played for any length of time. Luckily, I'm in a nice lull with the games that I like. Haven't versioned in a couple years, and so there's nothing new, nothing to do. But we have to get in there, and we have to make sure that everything that sucks our time out of us is something that we're very aware of. We have measured its value in our life, and we accept the sacrifice. But now, what's interesting is I've got friends of mine that are going to very intense courses right now to get successful in life. Like really intense year-long courses. If you miss one class, they kick you out. The classes are not only held in Los Angeles, but they're held in major cities across America. And so they really want to succeed. And it's really phenomenal to watch. Because then I'll interview them so that we do this exercise where they'll call me on the phone, and I'll interview them about what they learned in the class, and then by repeating it to me, they get a chance to not only remember it verbatim, but they get to describe it to me and understand the theory of it. And of course, I'm going to ask a lot of questions back. But we obviously have a generation that's I don't know. Bernie Sanders is trying to pour water on top of all the kids in the world that are wanting to say, this is too hard, I don't want to do anything extra. Please pay my rent for me, right? And that person over there that's really worked extremely hard, like me, to invent something, to create a business, to create literally a company, an office that has health care and salary and ongoing clients. They want to steal my money and give it to themselves for not doing this. Now, we might all disagree about how hard a person needs to work to get what they want, but I really honestly believe that if you are alive, then what you believe is that you should live. And what is living? Living is not just a word. When people say, that's my best friend over there, or that's my friend, or I'm their best friend, I always say, well, I don't always say this, but at some point in my measurement of that, I go, look, well, what did you do to earn that description with that person? And they'll sort of look at me funny, and I'll say, well, it's not just a word. There's something called acquaintance. You met that person once. To call them your friend is something that you've exchanged between the two of you. Either a great conversation, but I have to say that when they need you to help them move, and you help them move, that's a friend. When it is most inconvenient to you to participate in their life and benefit them and serve them, that's when you may be getting too close to a best friend level. When you have reached the stage where you will die for your friend, and I don't mean that figuratively, you will step in front of a bus, you'll take a bullet, whatever it takes, then you are a best friend. But it's only through deed that these people actually mean something to you. And so for me, to be alive is sort of like that. You need to realize, until we actually know where the hell we come from and know how the universe is put together, know where our souls come from and all that stuff, right? If we were to carry the knowledge from God that this is just one infinitely tiny lifespan out of an infinite level of lifespans of reincarnation, until we know that, we're given that gift as we live, we got to treat this one like it's the only one. And like they say in the analogy, life is not a rehearsal. It's it's fascinating that most of us adults have watched a sci-fi program or some sort of mysterious show, like a Twilight Zone or something. And at some point, we come to this question of what would our life have been had we made very drastic changes in our lives, right? Had you not moved to a particular town, had your parents not divorced, had you not dated that person or dated this person, I've got moments in my life where I have made one teeny tiny decision to go to actually my high school sweetheart. I made a decision to go to a public pool with my cousin. I had been working programming like crazy, and my cousin, it was like May. Actually, no, it was June. I was very late to getting out and going to the pool that particular year. It's 1985. And my cousin calls me up and he's like, I bought a bunch of new scuba gear. I want to go down and use it at the pool. I'm like, why the hell did you buy scuba gear? We live in Kansas, dude. But he's having fun. So I go down. I make this decision. I remember I was like 50-50. I didn't care. And I thought, well, I should probably just go down. Boom. I met, it's a small town. I knew the girl, but I hadn't dated her. Hopped in the pool, and just the vibe was perfect. And that one little tiny decision lasted for a year and a half. And of course, I know her today, sort of thing. I know everybody. But there's all kinds of little tiny decisions that we make that make this happen. You hear me talk about this all the time. But now think about this. What if being alive and engaging reality equals making more decisions? I could have not made any decisions for the whole summer of 85. Besides getting up, programming on computers, painting, that's my two main things I was doing at the time, lifting weights and all this other stuff. But those are the three things I was actually doing as a kid. What if I chose not to engage anyone else? My cousin calls, I don't answer the phone. Of course, we had no caller ID back in the day. I just wouldn't have experienced that stuff. And because I did choose to wake up and engage that phone call and take that risk and go to the pool and have a good time, it totally changed my life. When I came to California, it was sort of one of these dream sequences that people experience, which is I came here right at the right time. The end of the 80s was still roaring. Everyone was happy. We had no war. Everything was booming. I only wish I knew what the rainbow was in Sunset Strip. I wish I even knew what Sunset Strip was really about when I came out here, because I would have engaged a lot of the friends I have today back when they were younger. I did engage things. I did drive into LA. I did do a ton of stuff. Everyone who had an opportunity, I would take it. And the amount of projects I worked on between 87 and, say, 1991 when I moved to the Bay Area, it's hard. When I built my resume was probably 3 pages long, abbreviated by 91. Very serious stuff, I'll give you a couple examples. Like, I had a buddy of mine who came to me and said that he had a friend that designed silk suits. And he goes, I think you'd be great. Because I was drawing some futuristic clothing and stuff, and I don't even know how it came together, but I went ahead and designed a couple suits. I don't know if they were ever made, but I did it. I was at work one day, and my boss comes to me and says, we're going to be building out a new building. We need you to run around and do essentially interior design, not true interior design, but, blocking out where the offices need to be, where, how big does the cafeteria need to be, all these things. And so for 3.5 months, I was paid to run around and do all the interviews and do all these interior sketches of layouts of how to build the prefab walls inside of a building. I got involved with a project where these guys wanted to create, and now it makes complete sense to me, but these dudes wanted to create a piece of software which taught children how to understand electronics by recreating within the software, Faraday, Tesla, Henry, Volta, all these guys. And you would essentially do their experiments that they did to discover things within the software, all simulated, obviously, with animations. Cool, right? Again, like I said, I created big, giant paintings of my own, 30 by 40 paintings that I would sell with just wild conceptual designs. I did designs. People would bring me a pillow, and they'd say, there's the pillow. It's on my bed. This is the color palette I have. I'd like to have 3 paintings that match this pillow that I could put over my bed. And so I just riff something together. Boom, make some money. I did software design. I became a fontographer. I drew all kinds of screen fonts, printer fonts, I did video game art for the animated sprites, the characters, for the worlds. Another side thing that happened, because I became this fontographer, which, again, drawing all these fonts, we had a guy, I don't know how this got to me, but this dude from the Pentagon came to me and said, we have a special font that's an OCR font, which is optical character recognition font. And you'll see this font all over the place. It's where an O looks like a diamond. And he said, we do not have the OCR font inside computer software, inside vector graphics. He goes, could you do this for us? I said, sure. And I think I did it for like $200. Totally screwed myself. Probably could have got $2,000 for it. But I drew the Pentagon's first OCR font that was vector graphics. It's cool, right? But just tons and tons and tons of this stuff, right? I helped create a company with a buddy of mine where we would rush in and fix software. I drew tons of interface stuff, and it was just awesome. This is all between 87 and 91. And so I lived my life because I used all my time to live my life. And I was super young, had no responsibilities besides paying my bills. So depending on how old you are when you're watching this, where you can engage it however you want to engage it. If your kids are older, game on, baby. It's game on. You can start engaging the world to the maximum degree. And that's what I suggest. A lot of people don't have any cause in life besides their job. They go and they go to work and they come home. I'm gonna tell you a couple things here. If you're chain smoking, you may not like your job. If you're an alcoholic, you may not like your job. So just think about those two factors. If you have a bad habit that is a mechanism you need to do, and I'm not judging you, man. I'm not judging you. I just think this might drive you to go for something else. Some of you take the truth movement very seriously, from Flat Earth to 9/11 to Bilderberg groups and throne elections. And you're going to take your time between now and, say, the presidential election this year to make sure that the voter fraud that's going on. There's an article I just read that people are realizing that no one is publicly supporting Hillary Clinton, but she is sweeping the polls. There's never been a more righteous choice moment to catch an absolute dirtbag criminal right now than to study the fact that there's only two people really running against each other, and it's Bernie Sanders and Trump. But Hillary is crushing Bernie somehow, and no one has got a Hillary sticker on their car, and no one is publicly admitting they like Hillary on Facebook. But she's crushing this guy, and now people are starting to find out how. It's going to be a great thing. But I would say, unless you love your job, let's make your job number one. Let's make your career number one. Let the truth movement thing just be sort of your pastime. Maybe it's the mortar between your bricks. Maybe it's just some of the other bricks, right? But don't get caught up in the truth movement if you haven't taken care of the three food groups of life, which, if you've seen on my episodes, it's self, family, and work. Those are the only three things that actually happen in your life. Everything else fits into those groups. There isn't a fourth. And, for the record, if you haven't already figured out, I don't have necessarily a separate category for friends. My friends are my family, and that's just the way it is. If you are a true friend of mine and not just an acquaintance, you're family, and you get the benefits package that comes with that. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Hopefully I beat this up from enough angles that it does make sense, which is every second of life is precious. It really, really is. It doesn't mean you have to mourn the loss of a second, right? If you happen to sleep in on a particular day, or you just find out that, hey, you had a lot of things planned for Saturday, but it just didn't happen. You know what I do when that happens? Where this happens probably at least one Saturday a month for me, where it's Friday night and I have a really good productive Friday night, and I think, my God, tomorrow I'm just going to kill this, and then I sleep in or whatever. I just wake up and I'm like, oh man, now I'm in the mood to play that one video game I play one time this month. I really engage it and play it. I don't beat myself up for that one day off. But I want you to take all the other times you possibly can and try to find a systematic, rhythmic balance for yourself, so that you you feel comfortable with what you're doing. Now, I was going to put in a small section about anxiety, and I'm debating whether or not I'm doing a whole episode on anxiety because I have dated people that have tremendous anxiety. And I think that it deserves sort of an hour by itself. And I think it is debilitating in life. So we're going to leave that and push that off to the side. I just want to loop back because I thought I might stick it in this episode. I'm not going to do it. The shows are slowing down a little bit. Again, I keep recording shows and I just don't like them. It's just not working for me. So you know how this works. If you're an old-time listener, when my mojo gets really in sync, I'll do 4 shows a week. You know, I'm just, I don't know, I'm in a really good productive thing right now. I've got a couple projects that are starting to crest that beautiful point where all the hard stuff is over. I'm learning a couple new computer programming languages, and it's just been a rough haul because of these languages totally suck the way that they're designed. But anyhow, that's starting to pick up, and I got to go back into a rewrite on my script from last year, and I got to greenlight a new script, and so there's some good stuff going on. So I'm going to go allocate my time right now. So I hope that you appreciate the fact that if I'm taking out an hour or so, which takes about 2.5 hours to make one of these shows for every 60 minutes that's invested in the output of the show, that I really do care about you guys. I really do want to make sure that this world's a better place through passing on the things that I've learned, the things I've learned through difficulty, but also through direct mentorship from other people. So anyhow, hope you're having a good day. mkultureradio.com for all the feeds. If you dig it, please subscribe. If you like it, please like. I will see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over now.